Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Melissa Sweat. I'm Customer Relationship and Community Manager at People on the Go, and I'll be moderating our session today. I have with me Dr. Karina Jensen, who I'll be introducing in just a moment. But before we get started, let's just do a quick check to make sure that you can hear me just fine and see the screen. Please go ahead and locate the questions panel and go to webinar and just type in a brief note, a hi, hello, and everything's okay, just to let me know that all is working well. Okay, great. Thank you, Pamela. And yes, Thomas, to answer your question, you will receive a recording of this session. We will be sending it out tomorrow. Thank you, Lori. Thank you again, Thomas. Thank you, Gavin. Okay, great. Sounds like we are good to go. If you are having any trouble, again, the number to call is on the screen, 1-800-263-6317. I'll also be on to help you as well. And as I mentioned, you will receive the recording. So just a quick background about us and why we have these sessions, especially for those of you who might be with us for the first time. We have these sessions because our focus at People on the Go is productivity and leadership in the workplace. And the topics that you see on the screen are the topics that we cover. Today, we also have a very special giveaway, and I'm keeping it a secret for now. So you'll have to stay tuned until the end of the session to enter to win. So do stay tuned for that. And now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker, Dr. Karina Jensen. Karina Jensen is a practice director at the Center for Leadership and Effective Organizations and a professor of global innovation and leadership at the NEOMA Business School in France. She is also founder and managing director of Global Minds Network, a consulting and training firm. An international management consultant, change facilitator, and educator with 20 years of experience, she has launched and managed global products, services, and programs for leading multinational firms in Europe, Asia Pacific, and the Americas. Karina Jensen has research and teaching experience in the areas of global innovation and management, leadership, creativity, and multicultural collaboration. Her new book, Leading Global Innovation, is based on research with over 200 leaders and 45 multinational firms. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Karina. And this will take just a moment to transfer over.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir. Can you hear me all right?
Sounds great, Karina. Thank you.
All right. Bonsoir. I'm calling from Paris, so it's evening, late evening here, and a bit dark and chilly. Hopefully you have some sunshine there for your lunchtime. So I'm looking forward to joining you to speak about leading and facilitating multicultural collaboration in a new world at work, and sharing some of my research and experiences and taking a good look at how can we improve multicultural collaboration in today's business world. And it's a very interesting world we find ourselves in, quite turbulent, fast-paced, it's multicultural, it's digital, and ever-changing, as all of you are experiencing. And so what I find interesting about this business world that we find ourselves in is the challenge of collaboration across cultures and functions. And it's a topic that's fascinated me for the last 10 years plus, inspired from my consulting and corporate and research work, and really seeing firsthand how challenging it can be to collaborate across cultures and functions and in order to create successful solutions. And so the quest then becomes, how can we really harness the collective wisdom of everyone around the world, of our teams and our colleagues and collaborators, and really look at connecting local voices and talent and knowledge to creating global solutions that really matter. And this is where collaboration really becomes key today. And we see that in research, we see that in feedback and reports, research reports. If you look at the Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends of 2016, they really speak to the future organization that will be built around very empowered teams, looking to a new model of management that's going to be represented by younger, more globally diverse leaders. And what's very interesting is a report from 2014 and 15 on the global leadership skills that are most critical, yet leaders still don't really master them. And that's leading across cultures, intercultural communication, integration of foreign environments, leading across generations, and fostering employee creativity and innovation. So multicultural collaboration does matter, especially if we're going to connect with the younger generation and inspire all generations to be more creative and innovative. And it's also about achieving global performance too, because the inability of leaders and teams to facilitate multicultural collaboration can affect global innovation performance. And that's everything from really concept design to strategic planning to marketing to operational efficiency, customer connection, and overall organizational performance. Yet multicultural collaboration is often missing from the vocabulary. And if we look at performance, what matters to us today is really creating valuable solutions that can improve our lives, that can improve, really create value around the world. And often what happens is that organizations create solutions that don't really speak to cultures and markets around the world. And I can think of many funny stories and examples, from hilarious translations to the wrong product features or services that were offered to mature or emerging markets, from black and white, sort of chic concept design that was sent out to many Asian countries or markets, client that I was working with. And they thought this would be a great hit and go over very well with their customers across Asia. And as it turned out, it was viewed as a death symbol. So not a great way to connect with your customers. And another example, which goes with IKEA, and who everybody knows well probably, and they've had their challenges introducing furniture and accessories across the world, and ensuring that everybody can connect the Swedish way. But even going into the US, there were times that there were issues with size and color, where Americans found these European vases or Swedish vases. They thought they were drinking American-sized drinking glasses. So the stories go on, and I can share many from clients. But the key is, how do we better connect and collaborate so we can really create solutions that create value and that deliver value, especially to economies across the world, because it's not about delivering to the mature markets, it's also about developing and emerging markets. And there it becomes increasingly important to create value and really create solutions that matter for those communities. So how do we do this? And this is looking at if we look at challenges today around the world or globally, organizations are typically facing this the pressure to innovate continuously and at the same time respond to customers and ensure that they're local or personalized solutions to customers, whether they're in Shanghai or San Francisco or Paris or Rio. So it's really looking at how do you reach and connect with those customers as well as partners around the world, and then at the same time grow your markets, and also ensure that the consumers receive solutions in a timely manner. And then, of course, ensure you have an advantage or a competitive position. So this goes to whether you're collaborating with customers, partners, or suppliers. So this quest that I've had for the last 6 years has been a long research journey. And I was curious about this question, looked at, well, how could we better facilitate collaboration and then increase global innovation performance? And in that sense, I spent the last 6 years with 3 separate international studies looking at more than 200 global project leaders at 45 multinationals that were based in Europe, Asia, and North America. And there was a particular profile of leaders who really facing this complex, dynamic, international, multicultural world that we're seeing. And they were responsible for global innovation projects as well as cross-cultural teams and working across 3 continents and 16 countries and beyond. So it was interesting to explore how were they meeting those challenges and what were the opportunities to facilitate improved collaboration around the world. And if we looked, looking at the challenges, and I first studied the critical incidents or challenges for these leaders and their teams. And it really centered around 4 areas. Whenever they would have critical incidents or challenges within the team, it would be about trust building, probably no surprise, that runs across cultures. Trust building was the most challenging. And then team participation, how to ensure that every team member was engaged and involved and could contribute at their optimal knowledge and ideas. And that involved interactive dialogue, how to ensure that it was an inclusive process where these team members could raise ideas and to share knowledge in every location. And finally, that also meant how to ensure better understanding and support of the global strategy. So majority listed culture as a challenging element in global teamwork, and it's becoming even more so now that we're looking at international projects that involve diverse cultures. And those incidents often led to the lack of trust, lack of team engagement or participation, often led to really poor solutions. So the result would be lack of customer connection, a product that really didn't have the right cultural fit or local market fit, and so lack of demand as well, and poor sales performance around the world. And so what were the solutions? And this is what I'd like to talk more about today, is looking at, well, how can we make multicultural collaboration work or ensure that it can work well around the world and really optimize everyone's knowledge and talent, no matter what location or and across geographies. And so the model that was shaped from the research and my studies is really what I'd call a multicultural innovation framework. So if we look at how we tend to collaborate on projects, whether we're working on programs or services or products, it tends to be a cycle. If we look at that cycle, we often look at how do we involve everyone, how can we ensure creativity and the very front end in the beginning of a project, and then how do you ensure that you move to strategic planning and ensure that you have the knowledge that's necessary to create an effective strategy for international markets, and then how do you validate that at the local level to ensure that the solution really meets expectation of customers, whether they're in mature, emerging, or developing markets. And then finally, of course, how do you go to market? How do you bring that solution or deliver it and market and sell it? And finally, really achieve high performance for the team, the project, as well as the company. So that what I found, there were 3 collaboration drivers that really helped international organizations facilitate collaboration. And those drivers were vision. So vision was really about looking at what are the new leadership competencies that can facilitate multicultural collaboration and innovation, and the strategy, so strategic co-creation, and looking at that as a vehicle to involve local teams. The second area is dialogue. There was dialogue in looking at how to improve knowledge sharing and cross-cultural learning for teams around the world, and looking how to facilitate that and ensure critical ideas and knowledge were optimized. And then finally, space. So looking at the space and how to create a global innovation culture, as well as team climate, where values could really help create more collaboration and an effective team climate. So I'm going to spend some time and just go through these 3 drivers or collaboration drivers: vision, dialogue, and space, and then show you a few examples from companies who are really doing this well. So if we look at vision and a global leadership, in a sense, it's becoming, the importance here is to be more and more inclusive. And so what I found in the research and the studies with particular leadership behaviors that were applied throughout that cycle, so project cycle, looking at how to optimize diversity, culturally diverse ideas and knowledge within the very first stage of launching a project. So looking at that stage, there were certain leadership behaviors, as well as planning to ensure an inclusive way to optimize knowledge that was critical for local market intelligence. And then validation there were behaviors there for leaders to really look at how to best validate and identify the right solution for international markets, as well as working with team members. And finally, execution, looking at leadership behaviors that could really drive communication, ensure that there was a very effective project collaboration process that would ensure optimal team performance around the world. So there are the leadership competencies and behaviors that are changing. And there's also the importance of looking at the strategy of an organization. So is it global or local in a sense? And sadly, what I found through my research is that today most organizations really try to centralize their knowledge and their ideas and within headquarters, or it's limited to just a few locations. And what I found from my research here is that it's very limited in terms of how international organizations are really optimizing knowledge and talent for their local teams, teams around the world, whether they're in Asia Pacific or EMEA or Latin America, Africa. And so the same for planning. There was really very limited involvement or engagement of local teams in planning, and they have critical market knowledge as well as cultural knowledge about their customers. And validation, to an extent, yes, that becomes important because you want to make sure to test and the concept to make sure it meets customer expectations. And execution, of course, was always there because the organization relies on local teams to market and sell those products and services and solutions. So how to improve the participation level? It's really moving from a local to global strategy. So rather than a top-down or global to local, more organizations are trying to really move from local to global. So looking at going out and capturing ideas and then bringing them back and looking at how to create the best solutions for markets around the world. And so if we look at that in practice, a quick example would be Philips, which is a Dutch, a European multinational firm, and who's a global leader really in healthcare, consumer lifestyle, and lighting products. And Philips really sees itself as more of a networked multinational firm, or a globally distributed, and they don't view themselves as having a headquarters. They have regional headquarters and globally distributed teams where teams in any location can take global responsibility. And so they really optimize knowledge by having really a design strategy. So all global leaders and teams share a certain a strategic co-creation approach in design thinking. They share the same design methodology and tools. And this allows team leaders to really engage teams from the local and regional levels when they're first starting to explore a new concept. And then later on, they can harness all of those ideas and knowledge to create optimal solutions for their markets. And then if we look at the dialogue, the area of dialogue, how to optimize knowledge sharing and cross-cultural learning around the world. And here, I think that most organizations today are working across knowledge platforms or with this digital tools, social media tools. Everyone's feels that, okay, we can easily work across borders now because we have a knowledge platform. We can use that and create a technology infrastructure, ensure interactive workflows with our teams, have collaborative tools, and we're all set. However, for those of you who have worked with technologies and try to maintain a team spirit or collaboration across a knowledge platform, have often found that it's really challenging if you haven't had the chance to really meet the team or create that trust in the very beginning. And so what's becoming more and more important here in working across cultures and ensuring more collaboration is how to optimize social networking, knowledge sharing, and cross-cultural learning across those platforms, and how to better manage that. And often that requires really a face-to-face dialogue, so good old-fashioned socializing and having an exchange and really sharing knowledge and learning about each other's cultures. And that really speaks to very universal their behaviors of really listening and responding to create two-way dialogue. And in listening, this is really about how to really understand and how to share knowledge, not only about one's own cultural views, but about others, and really understanding what are the critical needs and interests, and then how to respond to that. And there are certain ways to frame responses and feedback, and looking at how to optimize the learning that you see across cultures. And knowledge sharing across cultures is very different, and very little research has been done around this. We've always looked at cultures, so they're different across time zones, and they're different in terms of the communication, and but we haven't really, not a lot of attention has been paid to how we share knowledge across cultures. And there, it's really more attention is required around structure, looking at how knowledge is organized and presented. For example, Americans and Germans are as being more methodical and process-driven, often in project work or project collaboration, whereas many Asian cultures have specific work structures, yet communication is more indirect and organic. And these are more general examples, but if we had time to go into the cultures, there's some interesting differences there in how we organize and present our knowledge when working on and collaborating on projects. There's also power, how power is viewed in terms of knowledge as power and ownership of expertise, which varies across cultures too. So should it be held by one person, team leader, or should that is that more important than knowledge being shared and held within the team? And that varies quite a bit. There's also openness, how to save face, or how in terms of communication style, so openness to different ideas, and looking at how to is it in Asian cultures it's more about not questioning or really disrupting somebody else's idea because you want to save face in terms of not creating too much tension, whereas in the Western world it's maybe more about challenging others' ideas and looking at, well, how could we create some other opportunities? So there it becomes more, for all cultures, it's about how do we build up on ideas and how do we use approaches that can work across cultures. And then finally, initiative, looking at initiative and how to recognize that. An initiative and entrepreneurial spirit is very different across cultures. So I will, if we look at some ways that that is represented, just quick examples. Essilor is a company located in Paris, France, here locally, which is a global market leader in visual health. And they're quite interesting in that they really focus on local market responsiveness through knowledge sharing and recognition of local team initiatives. And so they have make opportunities for a lot of international travel and local team empowerment at the very start, and ensure that they can optimize knowledge from their teams around the world. Adobe is from San Jose, California. It was a global leader in online collaboration, digital experiences, has been great at optimizing their knowledge platforms, social media tools, including their own products such as Adobe Connect, and looking at how they can create real-time dialogue and engagement with their teams. So which leads us to the last area, which is space, and looking at how to create a better innovation culture and climate. And this is where you really want to address cultural empathy, collaboration, and creativity in order to shape a culture that will really be conducive to collaboration. And there, again, to create that climate, it's important to think more about how to optimize global teamwork and cultural diversity, along with ideation, innovative thinking, and transparency and knowledge sharing. Okay, I will quickly, I see we're running out of time here, and I will just quickly point to two companies that I see have been great in creating global innovation cultures, and that's Airbnb, which really has been looking at how to create knowledge exchange and travel exchanges for their employees in different locations around the world. Another company, Wipro, based in India, has been wonderful in looking at harnessing knowledge from their cross-cultural and cross-functional teams by creating 24-hour pods where they can really work on problem solving and create their disruptive solutions. Okay, so that brings us to kind of the conclusion and looking at, well, how can we facilitate multicultural collaboration at work? And it's really about paying more attention to these collaboration drivers in terms of vision, leadership, and strategy, dialogue, knowledge sharing, cross-cultural learning, and space for organizational culture and climate. So really looking at leaders as knowledge facilitators and innovation orchestrators, and really paying more attention to local voices and looking at how can we nurture that knowledge sharing. So thank you and merci. I went a bit over time there. I want to mention very quickly that a lot of the research findings and more cases and stories and examples can be found in my book, Leading Global Innovation. And again, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Karina. I'm going to go ahead and transfer back to my slides, and then we'll get into the special announcement and the Q&A. Please go ahead at this time, and if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the questions panel now, and we'll get to them in just a moment. If you'd like to be in touch with Karina, here again is her contact information. And thank you all again for just staying with us a little bit over as we get into our closing slides and Q&A here. I have just a few reminders for you today. Of course, we'd like to invite you to become an active member of our community. You can check out our blog, join our Accomplishing More with Less groups on Facebook and LinkedIn, follow the Perfect 15-Minute Day page on Facebook, our company page, and also follow our founder, Pierre Kawand, on Twitter. Some upcoming webinars at People on the Go include Accomplishing More with Less for Managers, coming up on the 29th of this month and into early December, 3-part session there, Mindfulness at Work coming up on the 6th, and then Project Management for Non-Project Managers, 2-part session on December 6th and 13th. And you can sign up on our website, people-onthego.com/webinars. And now for that special announcement, we're going to have a giveaway of Karina's book, Leading Global Innovation. So all you need to do to enter is go ahead and fill out the feedback form at the end of our session. It's going to pop up on your screen. Fill out the feedback form, and we're going to pick 3 people from that list, and we're going to give out 3 copies of the book. So you have a high chance of winning here. And yeah, I look forward to receiving your feedback. So please do fill that out. And now for the Q&A, and I'll just go in here. Oh, great. Let's see here. Okay, let me get this question from Laura here. Yeah, this is a great question. Do you address leadership competencies in your book? Are they outlined or detailed? Great question, Laura.
Hello. Thanks, Laura, for your question. And yes, they are addressed in the book. So I didn't want to give away all my secrets, but when you look at the global project cycle or innovation cycle, I share what I found in terms of how leaders can facilitate those stages, and really looking at how they can be more empowering in terms of ensuring more knowledge and knowledge sharing and ideas, and then looking at more inclusion. So I'm really looking at the inclusive leadership skills, and then speak to the skills throughout those stages, and particularly how they are addressed to multicultural teams, and also a special look at teams in Asia.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karina. And if a company is launching within a country that you have no knowledge of, how can a company do the research to know what type of marketing is appropriate?
What's in many different ways. What's important is there's so much information, knowledge available to us today. So to really start to understand that culture and the local market, just in terms of the country itself and the geography and the lifestyle. But what's important is to be immersed within that market. So to really find contacts within that industry, within that market, to go there and be immersed in order to better understand the culture.
Great, thank you. And then this will be our last question today. How does a leader convey her vision if there is no, central headquarters? How really can that, vision be best, carried out amongst multiple locations?
So that takes a globetrotter, and hopefully you do enjoy travel. I think this is something that was discussed in my book as well. There's a chapter on the future of multicultural innovation collaboration, and something that leaders always spoke to was the importance of mobility, international mobility.
Mhm.
So to share your vision and to go to those regions, spend time with them, share your vision, and then receive their feedback and interpretation on your vision as well, to look at how that can be shaped and applied in their context. So it really takes going there,
Mhm.
pick up your bag and travel to those locations, and having that time for an exchange and for them to better understand your vision and give feedback.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Karina, so much for sharing your insights today. And thank you all for your great questions and for staying with us. Again, please do go ahead and fill out that feedback form, and you can be entered into our drawing to win Karina's great book. And we really appreciate your attendance today. If you have any other questions, please feel free to get in contact with us or Karina. And otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karina. Bye-bye.